The doorbell rang at 9:47 p.m., shattering the peaceful quiet of my home. Through the security monitor, I could see them, my parents, standing on my doorstep for the first time in 10 years. My father clutched his chest, his once towering frame now hunched and frail. My mother's designer clothes were wrinkled, her face stripped of the makeup she'd never been seen without. "Who is it, Mom?" Lucas called from upstairs. "No one," I replied automatically, my heart hammering against my ribs. 10 years. 10 years of silence after they'd thrown me out of their lives for choosing my unborn child over their precious reputation. And now here they were, looking lost and broken on the doorstep of the home I'd built without them. I opened the door, allowing the cool night air to rush in, carrying with it the ghosts of my past. "Rebecca," my mother whispered, her eyes widening as she took in my silk pajamas and the elegant foyer behind me. "Elizabeth," I replied, using her first name deliberately. "Harold." My father winced at the formality. What an unexpected surprise after a decade of silence. "You look." My mother trailed off. "Successful?" I supplied. "Funny how that happened without your help." "Please," my father spoke, his voice rough with exhaustion. "We have nowhere else to go." I stood frozen in the doorway, remembering another doorway 10 years ago when I'd been the one asking for help and they'd been the ones shutting the door. "Mom?" Lucas appeared behind me in his Star Wars pajamas, looking impossibly young and vulnerable. My parents' eyes locked onto him as if seeing a ghost. "Is that?" My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "Your grandson," I finished. "Yes, the one you never wanted to meet." "I'm Lucas," my son said simply, coming to stand beside me. "You're the ones who kicked my mom out." My mother flinched. My father's face went ashen. 10 years ago, I'd been a pregnant 32-year-old marketing executive begging my parents for understanding. Now I was the CEO of my own company, and they were the ones begging for shelter. Life had a poetic way of coming full circle. "Where's Andrew?" I asked, referring to my brother. "He took what was left and disappeared." My mother's voice cracked. "After the fraud investigation started." Of course he had. Classic Andrew. I looked at my son, this wonderful, mature boy I'd raised alone, then back at my parents, once pillars of high society, now financial and social pariahs. "If they're staying here," Lucas said firmly, "I want to be part of the decision." In that moment, standing in the doorway between my present and my past, I knew whatever I decided would change everything. Not just for them, but for me and Lucas too. Flashback the day everything changed. 10 years earlier, I wore a cream-colored blouse to my parents' Beacon Hill mansion, the collar still damp from where I'd wiped my mouth after morning sickness. At 32, I thought I had my life mapped out. Executive position at a prestigious marketing firm, my own brownstone in Cambridge, and a relationship I believed would last forever with James, a venture capitalist with the right pedigree and connections. Then 2 pink lines appeared on a pregnancy test, and James disappeared faster than summer in New England. "You're what?" My mother's teacup clattered against its saucer. My father's Wall Street Journal lowered slowly, his reading glasses reflecting the afternoon sun streaming through the bay windows of their formal living room. "I'm pregnant," I repeated, my voice steadier than my hands. "And before you ask, yes, I'm keeping it." The silence that followed felt like a noose tightening around my neck. My brother, Andrew, slouched deeper into the leather armchair across from me, suddenly fascinated by his phone screen. He'd always been their golden child, Harvard Business School, perfect marriage to a senator's daughter, job at father's investment firm. I'd been the disappointment, choosing marketing over law, remaining unmarried at 32. "This is unacceptable." My father finally spoke, his voice carrying that familiar tone that broke no argument, the same voice he used in boardrooms and with difficult clients. "You will terminate this situation, or you will no longer be welcome in this house." "Harold," mother whispered, but there was no real protest in her voice. She'd spent her entire life cultivating the perfect image, serving on the right charity boards, hosting the right people for dinner. An unwed pregnant daughter didn't fit that carefully curated tableau. I placed my hands protectively over my still flat stomach. "I can't do that. I won't." Growing up in the Tucker household meant understanding the invisible lines that were never to be crossed. Family reputation was paramount. Appearances mattered above all else. My father had clawed his way up from middle-class obscurity to become one of Boston's financial elite, and my mother had transformed herself from a schoolteacher's daughter to the queen of Beacon Hill society. They'd sacrificed too much to allow their daughter's indiscretion to tarnish what they'd built. Then you leave us no choice. Father stood up, his 6-foot frame casting a shadow over me. We've given you everything. The best education, opportunities, connections. And this is how you repay us? By becoming an unwed mother. I need help, I admitted, hating how my voice cracked. Just until I figure things out, please. You're asking us to support your poor choices? Mother's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her teacup. What will people say? Who cares what people say? I shot back. I'm your daughter. A daughter who should know better, father cut in. Andrew, leave us. My brother stood without a word, avoiding my eyes as he shuffled out. Some support system he was. Though I wasn't surprised. Andrew had always been careful to stay on the right side of our parents' approval. I've already lost my position, I continued, desperate now. The morning sickness had made it impossible to keep up with the demanding hours at the firm, and while I hadn't been officially terminated, the writing was on the wall. I just need a little help until what? Father's voice rose. Until you've completely destroyed our family's reputation? Until you're another welfare statistic? I'll pay you back, I promised. Every cent. I just need enough to. Father slammed his hand on the coffee table, making Mother jump. You made your choice. Now live with it. When you realize what a mistake you're making, you'll come crawling back. But until then, you are no longer welcome here. Mother, I turned to her, tears streaming down my face. Please. She looked away, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Listen to your father, Rebecca. I stood on shaky legs, my cream blouse suddenly feeling like it was made of lead. So that's it. 32 years of being your daughter, and this is what breaks us? You broke us, father corrected. Now get out. I walked to the door, each step feeling like I was wading through concrete. As I reached for the handle, Mother's voice stopped me. When you come to your senses, she said softly, we'll be here. I turned back one last time, memorizing their faces. Father's stern disapproval, Mother's artificial grief, and through the dining room doorway, Andrew's guilty expression as he pretended not to watch. No, I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong. When I succeed, because I will succeed, don't you dare try to take credit for the person I become. You lost that right today. Flashback, the decision. That night in my Cambridge apartment, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by financial statements and unpaid bills. My savings would last 3 months at most. The baby would arrive in 7. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, and the neon sign from the diner across the street cast an eerie blue glow over my makeshift office. I pressed my palms against my temples, trying to quell the panic rising in my chest. How had I gotten here? I'd done everything right, graduated summa cum laude from Wellesley, climbed the corporate ladder, saved diligently. One unplanned pregnancy, and suddenly I was toxic. My phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. They'll come around. Just do what they want. I blocked his number without responding. It's just you and me now, little one, I whispered, placing a hand on my stomach. But I promise you this. We won't just survive. We'll thrive. I pulled my laptop closer and opened a new document. If my parents thought I'd come crawling back, they were sorely mistaken. I'd built successful marketing campaigns for dozens of companies. It was time to build one for myself. As I typed late into the night, sketching out the foundations of what would become my own digital marketing consultancy, I felt something shift inside me and not the baby. It was too early for that. It was something else, something harder, stronger. One day, I promised my unborn child as the first rays of dawn filtered through my window, they'll regret throwing us away. I didn't know then how prophetic those words would become, or how 10 years later, they would come back to haunt my family in ways none of us could have imagined. Flashback of the building blocks. You're charging what? Sarah nearly choked on her coffee. 6 months pregnant, I sat across from her in a quiet corner of Caf Nero, my portfolio spread between us. I'd known Sarah from my previous firm. She was now marketing director at MediaBridge, one of Boston's top agencies. 200 per client, I repeated, suddenly defensive. Rebecca. She set down her cup firmly. These results are worth at least 1,000 per client minimum. I stared at her, my mind racing. $1,000 per client would mean. You're not selling social media management, Sarah continued, flipping through my portfolio with practiced efficiency. You're selling results, Roy, growth, actual business outcomes. Look at what you did for that boutique: 200% engagement increase, 45% boost in online orders. That's worth far more than you're charging. No one would pay that much for someone working from their dining table, I argued, unconsciously resting a hand on my growing belly. Wrong? Sarah grabbed my notebook and started writing. You need a proper business name, a website, and packages. Tier your services: basic, premium, enterprise. Create case studies from these early successes. I can't afford. I know a web developer who owes me a favor. She waved off my protest. And MediaBridge is looking to outsource some social media work for our smaller clients. If you can handle it, I'll recommend you. I stared at her, my throat tight. Why are you helping me? Sarah's pen stopped moving. Her expression softened as she looked at me. Because 8 years ago, I was you. Different circumstances, same terror. She pushed the notebook toward me. Someone helped me. Now I'm helping you. But you have to help yourself first. Are you in? That night, after Sarah left, I worked until 3 a.m., building my business plan. My back ached, my feet were swollen, but for the first time since that day in my parents' house, I felt hope, of fragile and tentative, but hope nonetheless. Growing up, my father had always told me that success was the result of strategy, not luck. The world doesn't give handouts, Rebecca, he'd say during our Sunday business lessons. I'd resented those lessons then, but now, I drew on every piece of knowledge he'd imparted, every trick he'd taught me about positioning and value proposition. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was using his own teachings to prove him wrong. Flashback: the first victory. I'm pregnant, not incompetent, I told my reflection, adjusting my blazer over my 7-month bump. My first major client meeting was at Back Bay's newest boutique hotel, and I'd arrived early to review my proposal one last time. Ms. Tucker? A woman in a sharp Armani suit approached my table. I'm Claire from Bloom Cosmetics. Sarah spoke highly of you. The meeting started rough. I could see the doubt in Claire's eyes when she saw my condition. It was the same look I'd seen countless times over the past months, that subtle reassessment, the mental recalculation of my competence based solely on my pregnancy. But as I walked her through my strategy and showed her results from previous clients, something shifted. These numbers are impressive, she admitted, studying my proposal. But I have concerns about your availability. I understand, I said, my hand steady as I took a sip of water. That's why I've built a contingency plan into the proposal. You'll notice I've included backup support and guaranteed response times, regardless of my personal circumstances. Claire looked surprised, then smiled. You've really thought this through. I have to, I said simply. Failure isn't an option for me. 2 hours later, I had my first major contract, worth more than all my previous clients combined. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mother heard you're doing some computer work. Hope you're being realistic about your situation. Andrew. I deleted the message without responding. When I reached my apartment, I settled at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. My son kicked, and I smiled, placing my hand on my belly. See that, little one? Mommy just landed her first big fish, and trust me, there are plenty more in the sea. Looking at my reflection in the laptop screen, I barely recognized myself. The scared woman in the cream blouse was gone. In her place was someone new, someone stronger, someone determined, someone who was just getting started. Present day: the reckoning. Why should we let you stay? I asked my parents as we sat in my living room 10 years later. The modern art on the walls, the expensive furniture, the view of Boston through floor to ceiling windows all testified to what I'd built without them. The banks took everything, Mother explained, her hands twisting in her lap. The house, the cars. Andrew had power of attorney. He. He did exactly what you trained him to do. I finished for her. Take whatever he wanted without considering the consequences. We made mistakes, Father admitted, and I nearly fell over from shock. He'd never admitted to a mistake in his life. About everything. About you, about Andrew, about what really matters. You abandoned your pregnant daughter because you were worried about your reputation, I said, the old anger rising like bile in my throat. How's that reputation working out for you now? The Tucker investment scandal had been all over the news. Andrew's fraudulent schemes had wiped out retirement accounts, college funds, charitable foundations. My brother, their golden child, had stolen millions and fled the country, leaving our parents to face the music and criminal investigations. Rebecca, please, Mother begged. We know we don't deserve your help. You're right, you don't. Then why did you let us in? Father asked quietly. I looked at Lucas, who had been watching the exchange with the intense focus he brought to his advanced math problems. His eyes, so like mine, were thoughtful, assessing. Because my son believes in chances, I said finally, and because I refuse to become what you are, people who turn their backs on family. We can pay you back, Father started, but I held up my hand. No. If you stay here, it's not a loan, it's not an investment, and it comes with conditions. They waited, hardly breathing. First, you will never again question my choices or my parenting. Second, you will treat Lucas with the respect and love he deserves, not because you need something from us, but because he's your grandson. Third, you will get jobs, real jobs, not investment schemes. Mother looked horrified. At our age? My company needs a receptionist, I said coolly. And Father, I hear Walmart is hiring greeters. Lucas snorted, quickly covering it with a cough. The guest house on my property was furnished and ready. I'd bought it as an investment, never imagining it would house my disgraced parents. You can stay there until you get back on your feet. But one step out of line, one hint of your old attitudes, and you're out. Clear? They nodded, looking shell-shocked. Lucas, what do you think? I turned to my son, this wonderful, wise boy I'd raised alone. He studied his grandparents for a long moment. I think everyone deserves a chance to be better. Even them. I hugged him close, breathing in his familiar scent. Then it settled. As they followed Jessica, my VP and right hand, to the guest house, Mother turned back. Rebecca, thank you. Don't thank me yet, I replied. Proving you've changed will be harder than anything you've ever done. After they left, Lucas and I stood looking out at the city lights. Are we doing the right thing? I asked him, suddenly uncertain. You always say success is the best revenge, he replied thoughtfully. Maybe forgiveness is even better. I kissed his forehead, marveling at his wisdom. When did you get so smart? Must be genetics, he grinned. From my mom's side, obviously. Flashback the climb. The years following Lucas's birth were a blur of sleepless nights, pitch meetings, and constant growth. Every milestone my son reached was matched by a milestone in my business. His first step coincided with my first office space. His first day of preschool aligned with my fifth employee hire. His entry into elementary school marked my company's expansion to a second floor. By the time Lucas was 5, Tucker Digital Marketing had 20 employees and a reputation for delivering results. By the time he was 8, we'd moved into our own building in the heart of Boston's business district. I never took a handout. I never asked for help from my family. Every dollar was earned through strategy, determination, and countless 18-hour days. And through it all, my parents' silence was deafening. No birthday cards for Lucas, no Christmas calls, not even a note acknowledging our existence. Andrew would occasionally send cryptic texts, usually when he was drunk, alternating between apologies and accusations. They still ask about you, he wrote once, around year 3. No, they don't, I replied. If they cared, they'd reach out themselves. He didn't respond, and I didn't expect him to. Andrew had always taken the path of least resistance. Standing up to our parents would require a backbone I wasn't sure he possessed. I dated occasionally, but men tended to fall into two categories: those intimidated by my success and those who saw me as a challenge to be conquered. None lasted long. Lucas and my company remained my priorities, and I had little patience for anyone who couldn't understand that. Sarah remained my closest friend and confidant, joining my company as Chief Strategy Officer in year 4. You know, she told me over late night strategy sessions, for someone who claims to have moved on from her family, you sure spend a lot of energy proving them wrong. I'm not proving anything to them, I insisted. I'm proving something to myself. But in quiet moments, I knew there was truth to her words. Every award, every new client, every expansion, part of me wondered if my parents knew, if they regretted their choice, if they ever thought about the grandson they'd never met. Present day, the family dinner's ready. Lucas called from the kitchen, 3 weeks after my parents had moved into the guest house. He'd insisted on helping prepare the lasagna my mother had taught him to make. I watched as mother set my dining room table with trembling hands. Her company polo shirt, mandatory for all TDM employees, was accessorized with a small pearl pin, her one concession to former elegance. Father sat stiffly in an armchair, still in his Walmart greeter vest, his once commanding presence diminished by polyester and a name tag. We sat down, an awkward rectangle of tension and unsaid words. The lasagna steamed between us like a peace offering. This is delicious, I admitted after a few bites. Mother beamed at Lucas. He's a natural in the kitchen, she said, just like you were at his age. Before you threw me out, I finished silently. Have you heard from Andrew? Lucas asked, cutting through the tension with the directness only an 11-year-old could manage. Father's fork clattered against his plate. Lucas, that's not. Not what? Dinner conversation? Lucas challenged. Mom always says we should be honest about hard things. I hid a smile. My son, the diplomat with a streak of my stubbornness. The authorities think he's in South America, Father said quietly, with what's left of the money. How much? I asked. 3 million, Mother whispered, plus whatever he skimmed before. Before he destroyed hundreds of lives, I finished. Before he ruined your reputation, the very thing you were so desperate to protect 10 years ago. Rebecca, Father started, but I wasn't finished. You know what's ironic? You threw me out because you were worried about what people would think of an unmarried pregnant daughter. Now you're working minimum wage jobs because your golden child committed fraud. Tell me, which scandal was worse? We know we were wrong, Mother's voice cracked, about everything. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're only here because you have no choice. If Andrew hadn't stolen everything, if you weren't facing criminal investigations, would you ever have acknowledged your grandson? That's not fair, Father protested. Fair? I laughed. Was it fair to throw out your pregnant daughter? Was it fair to miss 10 years of Lucas's life? Mom? Lucas touched my arm. They're trying. Are they? Or are they just surviving? The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Through the glass panels, I saw a familiar silhouette. No, Mother gasped. It can't be. I opened the door. Andrew stood there, tanned and wearing an expensive suit, looking like he just stepped off a yacht rather than fled the country. Hey, sis. He grinned. Heard you're taking in strays these days. You've got some nerve, I said coldly. Come on, Becca. Family helps family, right? Isn't that why Mom and Dad are here? Get out. Not without my share. He stepped forward. I know you're loaded now. Consider it payback for all those years they chose you over me. He laughed without humor. Oh wait, that's right. They didn't choose anyone. Uncle Andrew? Lucas appeared beside me. Andrew's confidence faltered for a moment. This must be my nephew. Hey kid, want to help your uncle out? I pushed Lucas behind me. Jessica, call security. Already did, she replied from the hallway. And the police. Andrew's smile disappeared. You wouldn't. Watch me, I said, hearing sirens in the distance. Some family ties deserve to be cut. Epilogue and new beginnings. And that's why we're here today, I concluded, standing at the podium. The business conference room was packed with aspiring entrepreneurs, all eyes fixed on me. Any questions? I asked, scanning the crowd. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. How did you find the strength to start over with nothing? I had everything, I replied. I had my son, and I had my determination. Sometimes losing what you thought you needed helps you find what you actually need. Another hand shot up. And your parents? After everything. I glanced at the back of the room, where my mother sat in her company polo shirt, efficiently checking in attendees. My father would be finishing his shift at Walmart soon. He'd been promoted to department manager last month. They're learning, I said. And so am I. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive isn't others, it's yourself. After the session, Lucas met me in my office. Homework spread across my conference table. How'd it go? Good, though I still hate public speaking. Could have fooled me, Jessica said, walking in with coffee. The crowd loved you, especially the part about Andrew. My brother's trial had made headlines. He'd taken a plea deal, trading information about his offshore accounts for a reduced sentence. The recovered money was being returned to the investors he defrauded. Mom? Lucas looked up from his math. Grandma asked if we're still on for Sunday dinner. I smiled. Our weekly family dinners had become a tradition over the past few months, not always easy, not always comfortable, but necessary, like lancing a wound, letting the poison out slowly. Yes, but remind her no fancy china this time. Paper plates work just fine. She's trying. Lucas grinned. Yesterday, she actually ate a hot dog from the Walmart cafeteria. Now that's progress. My phone buzzed a text from father. Proud of you today. Your speech reminded me how far we've all come, and how far I still have to go to deserve being your father again. Everything okay? Lucas asked, noticing my expression. Yeah, I showed him the text. Just your grandfather being surprisingly self-aware. He's different now, Lucas observed. They both are. Less stuck up. Amazing what some humble pie can do. And some forgiveness, he added carefully. I walked to my office window, looking out at the city I conquered on my own terms. Forgiveness is earned, not given. They're earning it day by day. Like when Grandma defended you to her old country club friends last week. I turned back to him. How did you know about that? I heard her on the phone. Some lady was gossiping about our family, and Grandma told her she was proud of her daughter who built a business from nothing while raising an amazing grandson. Then she hung up and canceled her membership. My throat tightened. Mother hadn't mentioned that. A knock at my door interrupted us. My parents stood there, looking uncertain. We thought. Mother started. Maybe we could take you both to dinner to celebrate your speech. Walmart cafeteria? I teased. Actually, father cleared his throat. We were thinking that hot dog car you like, the one by the park. I raised an eyebrow. In your designer clothes? We'll manage, mother smiled. Some things are more important than dry cleaning bills. Looking at them, really looking, I saw what Lucas meant. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something softer, more genuine. They weren't the parents who threw me out, just as I wasn't the scared woman in the cream blouse anymore. Okay, I nodded. But I'm Boo. Our treat, father insisted, a hint of his old authority returning, but tempered now with humility. My treat, I counted. Consider it an investment in our future. As we walked to the elevator, Lucas between his grandparents, chattering about his math test, I caught my reflection in the chrome doors. Success was supposed to be my revenge, showing them exactly what they'd thrown away. But maybe the sweetest revenge wasn't in making them see what they'd lost, but in showing them what they could still gain if they were willing to do the work to earn their place in our lives. Mom? Lucas called, holding the elevator. You coming? I joined my family in the elevator, watching the numbers descend. We weren't perfect, we weren't even fully healed, but we were trying, all of us, to build something new from the ashes of what we'd burned. And maybe that was the biggest success story of all. Race you to the hot dog cart. Lucas challenged his grandparents. In these shoes? Mother laughed, then kicked them off, holding them in her hands. Okay, kiddo, you're on. I watched them run across the lobby, my mother in her stocking feet, my father's Walmart badge glinting under the lights, my son's laughter echoing off the marble walls. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living well enough to give second chances, even to those who once denied you yours.